HouseRepairsYourself.com.
Hello everybody, today we're going to show you how to change the drain connection in your kitchen sink. You probably all have something like this. Unless you have a disposal and don't have another side to your sink, you may not have one, but most people have one of these. So we're going to show you how to change that out today. Remember, click on the little logo at the top corner up here to subscribe to our channel. This way you'll get all our new videos when they come out. Also, please like below, because that helps other people find our videos and it helps them figure out how to replace their sink and repair their home. Alright, hope you enjoy. Okay, the first thing we want to do is disconnect the tailpiece out of the bottom of the sink on the side that we're working. We've got a double bowl sink up here and we're replacing the drain connection on the side that does not have the disposal. And I've got a little container down here to catch a little excess water, but we really don't need to drain the trap over here and all this stuff because we're just working with this section here. So we're going to disconnect that, drain out as much of that as we can. Looks like we'll have an opportunity to clean some gunk out too, which would be good. Get that cleared out of there. Then we'll start disconnecting the sink up here. Wow, that's dirty. We'll get that cleaned out in a little bit. Probably be like a new sink when we're done. Alright, so a couple of the tools you might need are just a regular pair of adjustable pliers like this to get some of these nuts. On our new piece, there's actually a larger nut that goes on here, so I have these large pliers. But if you don't want to take the money to buy large pliers like this, there's a small little tool that you can buy at a home center that goes around that nut. It's kind of made to tighten that with. I'll show you that in a few minutes. But right now we want to take this apart and remove everything out of the sink. So we're going to do that on this style. Look at that, the whole thing just broke. The whole nut just broke over it, just like that. Which is okay, we're not going to reuse it. So we're going to take the old piece out, stick it down in there, and we'll deal with that later. And this new piece has got to come off here, and I've got a suspicion it's just stuck on there with the rubber washer, but let's see. Yep, just stuck on the bottom of the sink. Alright, we'll get a paper towel and kind of clean this up, pick all the old sealant off of here. Then I'll show you how to put the new one back in. Okay, now that we've got the old piece out and we've wiped this all clean, got all the old sealant out of there, now it's time to prep the new basket. Sometimes this is called a strainer basket, so that's what we're going to call it. It's really a drain connection. What we use is plumber's putty for this, and it comes in just a plastic tub like this at a home center or something, and you just roll it up like Tyler did. Here, my son Tyler rolled this out for us, a little rolled out piece of plumber's putty. Looks like we need a little bit more. We've got to get all the way around the edge here. And I'm getting low, but I think we've got enough. So you just take it and roll it in your hands like that and just squish it around there. And you want a pretty good sized row of plumber's putty there, just so when it seats down it squishes out. If it doesn't squish out, you're not sure if you have enough, so it's always good to make sure it squishes out. So I'm going to stick this in the top. And it's squishing in pretty well. That's good. Now this is a mistake that I've seen before. Usually these types of things, any kind of drain connection for a tub or a sink or a kitchen sink or anything, will come with multiple kinds of washers. Sometimes people want to put one on top and one on the bottom. You don't really ever want anything on top of the sink. The plumber's putty does the sealing there. The reason why we have two is because this rubber gasket has a lot of friction to it. So if we put that here and then screw this nut on, the friction will kind of bunch this rubber up and cause it to not lay flat. So we use this other piece of cardboard here just as a little friction reducer. So now we screw that on there. And I'm going to start snugging it by hand, and I've got my other hand on top of the sink, kind of holding it and help pushing it down, and the plumber's putty is squishing out as I turn this. At a point it's going to get too tight, and I'll have to go to a tool, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And now I'm going to go on top, and I'm going to make sure it's centered in the bottom of the sink. Looks pretty good. I push it down a little more, so now we can tighten it a little more. All right, let's get our tool. Okay, this is one such tool that you can buy. It slides, opens, and closes, and it fits around the points on that ring. It kind of slides and fits that way. There's other types of tools that you have. Some that have a big hook that come around and grab that. Like I mentioned before, I like my large pliers best, so that's what I'm going to be using. But basically, you just want to tighten this down so that it's pulled the drain assembly all the way down to the sink, and it has squeezed out the plumber's putty to where it's nice and tight. I pushed that down by hand a little bit. I think we're almost there. A little awkward with the cabinet here, it looks like. Okay, we're going to peel away the excess plumber's putty. If it doesn't squish out all the way around like this, then you may not have enough in there. And then I might take also just a knife and carefully clean that out without scratching the sink. Just delicately clean that out of there. You could leave that for somebody else to clean out if you wanted, but it'd be nice to do it for them. Now we're going to put it back together from underneath. So we're going to take our piece, and I've cleaned this out a little bit outside, and there was a lot of junk in there, so that's a good thing to do. One thing I want to talk about is the order of what we have here. On a tailpiece, which is what this is, it's not an extension. An extension is different. It's got a compression nut up here with a tapered fitting. This has got a flat fitting on the top. See how that fits up there? It's flat. You need a tailpiece washer on that, and that's what this is. Looks a little bit different than those tapered washers that are on the other end like this. So make sure you have that. And that comes with those, so you should have one handy if you bought a new strainer basket. And you shouldn't need any sealant or anything on that point. And I'll point this out too. The sealing takes place on these flat surfaces, not on the threads. So if you get a leak here and you think you need something extra, put a little bit of thread sealant just on this flat surface here and on this flat surface here. But in most cases, you really don't need that. We'll see how we do. There we go. Now this is interesting. Look at here. We've got a distance between our old and our new height. I don't know if we can adjust that a little bit or if we're going to have to cut a new tailpiece. Alright, so we ran into the problem with our length here, so we're just going to cut a new tailpiece. I want to show you the difference here. This is an extension, what I talked about before. Lots of times they come with two washers, which that one does. But you might be able to see how the tapered seat is there, and this washer fits into that tapered seat because it's tapered. And then when this tightens down on it, it presses that washer into that taper and causes a seal. So this is not what we're going to use. That's an extension piece. And again, like I said before, here's your tailpiece. So we're going to use something like this. All right, again, we need all these pieces in this order. We're going to thread this on here, and then we're going to mark our length, cut it off, and install it. Now, in this piece here, the tailpiece fits down inside there, and there's a little shoulder where it sits. Now I'm going to put a mark here that's right across from that shoulder, or just a little bit short maybe, so that we can slide it up on there and tighten it on. Now we've got this handy little tool here. Actually, my son bought it. He really likes it. It's just a small little sawzall is what it is, and it's great for cutting this kind of stuff. If you don't have it, it's okay. You can use a handsaw or anything, but this is what we like to use. Pretty slick little tool. Alright, so what we want is, for the bottom, this has got that tapered fitting, so we need that tapered washer. We need the retainer nut, then the washer, where it's tapering downward. In other words, the tapered end faces down toward the tapered seat. Alright, so we put that in there, slide it down, bring that down on top of it. Looks like we got our height pretty close, so we'll go ahead and tighten this end down. These are all hand-tight connections, so don't get any pliers out and crank on this because you'll just break them. Alright, now we grab our washer that I lost. Here it is. The tailpiece washer. Let me thread it back on. Now this one here, I do want to put a little snug on with a plier. Not a whole lot. Just a little bit. It doesn't have these little grips to hang on to like that does. So, alright, now we're ready to test it. Now when you do a test here, you want to test a couple of different ways with the stopper in, down, all the way down. Let's run some water and fill it up. Okay, we've got some water in there now. What we want to do is we want to test the seal on the top of the sink to make sure that doesn't leak. And with the stopper in, we're testing that. We want to let that sit for 5 minutes or so and then look underneath. If there's any water seeping around the seals, we need to reseat this area here where the plumber's putty was. The next thing we'll do is we'll pull the plug out and we'll test how the drain flow works and if there's any leaks in the drain piping. Okay, we're going to look underneath here. Tyler, can you take this and set that over there? And take this, set that over there. Alright, looks to me like we're in pretty good shape. You would see some drips right around here if it was leaking through. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the drain plug out. We've got water flowing. I don't know if you can hear that on the camera or not, but we've got water flowing. I got the faucet turned on up above. I've got water going through these pipes. I don't see any drips. I like to let that run for 20-30 seconds and keep an eye on it. Another tip too is come back tomorrow or overnight. You know, after a few hours, come back after the sink's been used a couple of times and see if there's a puddle somewhere. A lot of times there's this really slow leak that can develop, and if you don't catch it, it can cause some damage. But if you catch it right away, you can repair it and clean it up. All right, hope this has helped you. And don't forget to like the video below so that others can find it and it can help them as well.
Don't forget to push the like button to subscribe to our channel.